Present series of interviews in the Sri Aurobindo Ashram. We are meeting with elder sadhaks and sadhikas who generously share their experiences of life in the early years, their intimate relationship with the mother, and the many ways in which she guided them in their sadhana. Tonight, it is a great honor to have Nomita with us, to talk of her years in the ashram. When did you first come, Nomita?
I came here in January 1944.
I see. So you met Sri Aurobindo?
Oh yes. In fact, my father had already visited the ashram even long before I was born. So since then he wanted to come and settle down here. So he had already told Mother and Sri Aurobindo that I want to come back here with my family. So then, well, he went back and I was born. And so in those days, children below 4 were not allowed in the ashram. So the moment I turned 4, so Mummy and me, the two of us, my mother and me, we came first. And my father took a year longer. He came the next year with my two brothers, Ranajit and Ajit. And my father, he took 1 year more because he had to sell away the property, little property that we had, or anything, the house and the land, whatever we had. So he took 1 year longer. But in the meantime, what he had done, in the 40s, early 40s, Golconda was being built. And as my father was here, and he saw that it was growing, and my aunt, Vimala, she was a young widow, and my father, I must say my father was very modern. He did not, in those days when her in-laws came to take her, he did not give her. He said, no, my sister is going to stay with me. And he wanted her to be independent, so he started. In those days, in the villages of Bengal, there were people who were teaching crafts. So there were these weaving teachers who were passing by. So my father got in contact with them, and they came home and taught her weaving. And so my aunt, actually, she came here in 1941. And she started the ashram weaving department, which is still there on the boulevard. And it must be of interest to you that even today, the oldest machine which is there has come from our house, from our village in Bengal.
Do you remember when your father first met Sri Aurobindo? Did he tell you anything about that?
Yeah, it was in 1937, 38.
Oh my God.
Before I was born.
Did he tell you anything about
his
meetings
Yeah,
with
that
Sri
is very interesting because, you see, my father has had a very interesting life. When he was still in school, in those days Sri Aurobindo was touring Bengal in his political, giving lectures and all. So he had come very near to our village. So my father had gone to see the big leader, as everybody used to go. As a young boy, he also went there, and he was also interested. So, and that is when he really went there, and he saw Sri Aurobindo. But my father was also very interested in spiritual life. So he had given, even when he was in school, just before his matriculation, he left home to become a sannyasin.
I see.
So he became a sannyasin, and his guru was his name was Bharat Brahmachari. Sri Aurobindo and Mother have written lots of letters regarding him. So there is a book also which they had written later on, Anil Baran Rai, Yogananda, and they had written. So in there, they used to write about what their guru used to, and Mother and Sri Aurobindo had said that they had met him not in the physical world, but in the occult world.
I see.
He had met them. So my father had become a sannyasin. But then, in India, once you are a sannyasin, you cannot come back to normal life. But he was an exception. It so happened, as far as I know, in the history of India, two people have done that. One was Sant Ganeshwar, and the other was my father, who were sannyasis and then got married. They came later. But my father getting married and coming back to the ordinary life was because my grandmother was all alone with my aunt who was a child then. She had lost her husband and nobody was there to take care. So she wrote to her guru, and her guru had said that if my father's name was Kedar and his name, sannyasin's name was Kumudananda. So in the beginning, when Sri Aurobindo has given us quite a few books where he has signed as Kumudananda, to Kumudananda. So that is how it, and then, so when my grandmother wrote to him that, when she wrote to him, then he said, he thought it over and he said, well, I have no objection if he goes back to normal life, but if he can face society, because society did not accept this very easily. It was not acceptable.
Understand.
That a sannyasin coming, getting married and coming. So, well, finally my father took the decision with his guru's blessings. He came and he got married. But there was lot of problem. He had to face lot of problem from his co-brothers, that means from the
family?
Not the family, as they were called the Guru Bhais. That is those who were the disciples of the same Guru.
Yes.
So then, but then he had said something very interesting. He had asked my mother to write to him every day whatever she felt. She should write. And so she started, after her wedding, she started writing. She started writing every day. She used to write a postcard and send. And it so happened when they really did a meeting, called my father to be present for the meeting, because it was something which was not done. It was against the norms of society. How could he do it? So then, but it so happened my father at the last moment could not go for some reason, but everybody was gathered, and there the Gurudev said, a person who is married to such a woman can be anywhere, it doesn't make any difference. And he took out some of Mummy's letters and read them out to them. This is, I've always heard from my mother and from my father. So then my father asked him later, the day you are no more physical, and it will be of interest for you to know that in 24th November 1926, the Siddhi Day, it was exactly around that time that their guru had the vision that the Divine Mother had descended, manifested upon earth. And he had described it in a letter. And this was sent to Sri Aurobindo at that time. And Sri Aurobindo had said that yes, and he had seen in those days in the Indian mythology, all the goddesses had four arms, but he had seen her sitting on a lion with two arms and all that. So that showed that she had descended in a human form. And this description was given to our ashram artist Sanjivanda, and who had painted it, and we still have that painting.
And what did Sri Aurobindo say?
Sri Aurobindo said it was true. Because
it was true.
It was true because it's just that time that the mother had descended, the Siddhi Day, you see, 24th November 1926. It was the same period. It was the same period. And then my father had asked him, the day you are no more physically present, to whom do I go for guidance? And he had said, go to Sri Aurobindo. That is how we are here, you see, today. And apart from that, what was so interesting was, even when we were there, and my brother, I came here at the age of 4, the next year when my elder brother Ranjit Sarkar, when he came, he was 12 and Ajit was 7. You perhaps don't know them, but they're very well known in the ashram circle. Ranjit was our teacher in the ashram center school. He finished his studies here and then he went for higher studies to France and Well, and then he got married to a Dutch. Mother got them married in her own room, and she did everything for them. And then my second brother also, he was, today you see the setup of the playground, but most of it was done by him. Pranabda was there as a director, but he gave it form. He was one of the pioneers. Along with many others, he was one of them. And then he also got his scholarship and he went to study further. He studied physical education. He was always interested in that. And he was working in the National Institute of Sports in Paris.
So your father's guru said, go to Sri Aurobindo.
Yes. So he had said, go to Sri Aurobindo. That's why. So my father, he started writing. He started corresponding with Sri Aurobindo. And then Yogananda, one of his disciples of the same guru, he came here. And through him, my father used to write, and sometimes Sri Aurobindo, it was Marin Ghosh who used to answer the letters. So those letters are still there.
I see.
With,
I hope you could bring some of the
They are with my
books with signatures, just that we could
yeah, with
take you have any of those with you?
yes, we have. I have one or two.
That would be wonderful.
Where Sri Aurobindo has written Kumudananda to
Yes,
Kumudananda.
wonderful.
But most of the books, my elder brother took them with him to Holland. But I think I still have one or two. I just have a look. I don't know. So that is how we came here, you see. And
And then you were 4 years old,
I was 4.
and your brothers were older, of course.
Yeah.
And
So we were all educated here.
what is your first remembrance of seeing Sri Aurobindo?
Well,
At what age?
4.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
How could one forget? Huh?
I remember very well. I came in January, so my first darshan was in February darshan. And if you ask me whether I knew it was something very special, because everybody was there, and and in those days, it was very interesting. On the eve of the darshan, on the opposite pavement of the ashram, there were all these flower vendors. So they used to sell flowers and garlands and everything. So we used to all carry it up, and Mother and Sri Aurobindo were seated there, and in front the box was there, so we used to put them there. But I knew because something very special was happening. I went along with my mother and my aunt. And when I saw him, if you ask me what is my remembrance of Sri Aurobindo, I will tell you that I always thought he was a very big man. That was my first, he was somebody very big and bright and beautiful. That's all I remember. So, of course, I've seen him since 1944 till 1950.
So you were 10 years old when you last saw him?
11, no?
11.
Yeah. It's quite a few years.
What did your parents do in the ashram?
My father was working in the house maintenance. And my mother, well, in the beginning we were there. She was working in the dining room, the ashram granary. She was working there. And then she worked for some time in the ashram, in the dining room, wiping vessels. But then it so happened, slowly, our family became bigger. My cousins came and all of them came. So we were a big family. So mother said, you don't have to work, you look after your boarding. So we were boarding. We were quite a few children, all our cousins, we 3, and another, the children of my aunt, my mother's sister's children. We all grew up like one big family. So mommy always looked after the boarding, so she did not work. After that, mother said, you don't have to work. But when we first came, we were staying just beside the children's dispensary, which is today the children's dispensary, which now I think Maggie was living, and then now I think it was Habu's parents lived there, their family. But then it was also the weaving department, and mommy and me, and my aunt. So it was too small for us. So the next year, when my brothers came, but way back in 1944, in those years, the husband and wife were not allowed to stay in the same house. So my father was staying separately, in another house. That's quite interesting, which is today also it is called as Ananda House. Why was it called the Ananda House where Veena Vrinda stay now? It was called Ananda House because all the Anandas were staying there. My father, Kumudananda, Purnananda, Yogananda, Dhirananda. So they had named that house Ananda House. It is still Ananda House.
I see.
That's why. So when we came, and then it was too small with my two brothers, 3 children, mommy, my aunt, and the weaving department. So mother said, no, this is too small. They need a bigger house. And so they found a house for us, which was exactly where the executive inn is today. But that was considered to be very far. So mother said, how can Indubala, that is my mother, stay with the children so far? So Kedar, that's my father, that was his original. So you go and stay. So my father came to live with us. And I still remember mother came to see how we had settled down on my mother's birthday. After we had shifted, mother came to see how we were, how we had shifted and how we had put up the house and everything. She had visited us there.
What did you do when you were a little bit older? Did you join a group?
Look, group started with the Pranabda came after us. So right in the beginning, we were there. The teachers, we had some teachers. Alberda's elder brother was our teacher, and then there was another Gujarati gentleman, Pran Bhai, and so we used to play, and there was no game as such. So sometimes they used to take us to the park to play or to the beach. But playground really, in fact, started only when Pranabda came. That is when he really gave it a form. And that's exactly what I'm writing now. I mean, how it started, the whole thing. And but it is also, well, so I was one of the youngest in the group, and slowly started, and we were taught things by Virenda and Pranabda and well, as we grew up, I don't know what they found in me. So at the age of 13, I was made a captain. So the children who were in my group were all just a few years younger than I. So I had that responsibility already then, and slowly I have grown with it. So I have been a captain for more than 60 years.
Mother made you captain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, mother or dada, I mean, they decided. I don't know what they saw in me, but
when the school began, what did you do?
I have vague memory. I remember they used to make us play. We used to play. I had a teacher. She was an English lady, but Sri Aurobindo had named her Pavita. So I remember I have lots of memories of her. She was a terrible, strong, very strict lady, but I'm always grateful to her. She taught me many things which I later on in life I saw it was very necessary. I mean, cleanliness, discipline, and all that. She was very, very strict with us, but she taught us all that. I remember she taught us English and French. She was good at French also, though she was an English lady. She was very good at French, and that is how we started singing. And I remember there was a lady, a French lady, by the name of Madame Kaspari. So she used to play the piano and make us sing and dance. We used to play on triangles and xylophones, things like that. I still remember, I have vague memories of that. I mean, that is how. And then, of course, as time went, the first Christmas that we had at Udar's place. So we still have that photo with little kids sitting there. The first Christmas celebrations, which was done there, and then we came to the ashram to show mother what we had received and all that. It was.
When you were very young, what were your memories? What are your memories of mother in those days?
Well, she was somebody to whom we could go for everything. Anything we had, anything we wanted, anything we just ran to her. I can't tell you if I knew that she was a divine, I didn't. I mean, that's certain. I knew her that she's my mother. I can go to her for everything.
I have heard this more than once from disciples that she was simply your mother.
Yeah, she was just
More than your own mother.
And I must tell you something. My parents had told us they never took any decision for us ever. They never forced anything on us. They were very open and they said, "We have given you to mother. If you want anything, ask mother." And she will. So for every little thing, we have gone to her. For every little. I remember a very nice incident. That was perhaps when I was 14. Yeah, I must have been 13 or 14. I wanted to cut my hair. It was just, fancy. If I had very long hair. So I wanted to cut my hair. But at home they said, "No, you have such lovely hair. Why do you want to cut it?" But I was adamant and I said, "No, I want to cut it." So finally my brother said, "Ma," he said, "let her go and ask mother if she wants to cut." So Ma said, "Okay." Mommy said, "Yeah, okay, go." So I went and asked mother. So mother looked at my hand. "You really want to cut it?" I said, "Yes." So mother said, "Okay, cut it." So the next day I went and chopped off my hair off. Things like, even little things, like that.
Yeah.
I remember, but whatever we did, mother was all put us on a pedestal. She thought we were she made us feel that we were great in whatever we did, It was, even I remember, we used to make, in those days, we were asked to make toys and things or drawings, anything we did. Everything we did, we had to take it. Took it to her. And she always made us feel very special about the whole thing. She said, well, it was so beautiful that we had.
And when you were 10 or so, do you remember something of your last darshans with Sri Aurobindo and Mother?
Yeah, one thing which had really, which I really felt was the day Sri Aurobindo passed away. I still remember, because the ashram courtyard was our place. We children used to run and play and scream and shout. In that one day, our whole life changed. I mean, there was complete silence inside the ashram courtyard. There was no. So it came like that something terrible had happened. We knew that Sri Aurobindo had passed away, but I don't know as a child whether it had registered so much. But outwardly, our life had changed. Because then mother stopped coming for 12 days, she did not come. We did not say, see mother. We used to go to her so many times in the day. So we did not see mother, and there was complete silence in the ashram. But one thing I remember very well, it was the day Sri Aurobindo passed away. Well, all of us, we used to go in the queue and see her. But we kids, we came back. We again joined the queue. We again went back. That I remember we did quite a few times. And then the flower, this is my remembrance. I mean, my memory can falter, but I remember it quite well, that on the 5th of December, there were plenty of flowers which had come. I don't know from where, and all the elders, our mothers, and all there, everybody was busy making garlands, arranging the flowers and making garlands. So we also, as kids, we went and joined them. But then later on, they said no, Sri Aurobindo was not going to be put in the Samadhi, because mother decided against it, that he would be. And I still remember that from the 5th till the 9th, that is, the ashram atmosphere was very calm and very quiet. I mean, everything was, as a child, that's what I remember still. And then when they brought Sri Aurobindo to put in the Samadhi, we were all present there. We saw them lowering the coffin, and each one of us were asked to put a handful of sand and some rose petals into that I remember still.
Even the youngest children?
We all did it.
I see.
I remember.
So you have seen Shamanda's body when he left his body.
Yes.
So people say there was some golden light.
Now, if you ask me whether as I told you, I always had this feeling that he was somebody very bright and very big. So that same thing. But if you ask me whether I saw the light, I think I was too young to understand that. But I knew something was happening there. But it did not, I can't say that I've seen that light. Because, but he was bright, that I said. I always felt, whenever I saw him, I felt he was shining, he was bright. That's what I felt.
Did many feel that time that he will come back?
I don't know, I think I was too young for that. I can't
Because
tell
his
you
body
that.
was kept for 4 days.
Yes. So every day we used to go and have darshan. Every day we used to go and have darshan.
You did any duty during that time?
No, kids were not allowed. Kids were not allowed.
Could you tell us a little bit about the ashram school and education?
I've been writing about all this.
No, was there a registrar that time when you studied?
No, see, when the school was made, Pavitrada was the director, and he was guiding the whole thing, and we were the little kids, and I think at the most we must have been 30 students on the whole, perhaps in not even 30. In 44, I think we were. Well, they were the older ones also. Perhaps totally, I can't tell you for sure how many students we were. But in the for the kids, we were a few which I know.
What was the strength
my
of the
age.
ashram, if you remember? That
Pardon?
time, what was the strength of the ashram?
I think it was something like 300 or something, or even less.
Even less.
Or even less. I can't tell you. And I have some very nice memories of that time. You know, children below 4 were not allowed to enter the ashram, and every evening they used to have meditation in the ashram, and kids below 4. So we were, in fact, in the beginning we were kept behind. The you know where the ashram fruit room is there.
Yes.
Where courtyard, we were kept there.
Uh-huh.
So one day, this is something which I don't remember, but I've been told many times, that one day myself and another child said, let's shout as loudly as we can shout. So we started, during the meditation we shouted, and after that we were not allowed, or the kids were not allowed anymore in the ashram. But I don't have a memory of that. I have heard about it. And then in those days, just before darshan, mother used to give saris to the elderly ladies. We children never got anything. So once I said, what is this? Why should mommy get a sari and mother hasn't given me anything? Mommy has a sari, my aunt has a sari, and I don't have. So somebody went and told mother that she's crying, and she says, so they called me and mother gave me a sari. And then, I still remember it was a white sari with a red border. And the next, after that, they started, no. Mother said we should give the little girls something. So we started getting frocks and skirts and blouses. So Shahanadi, she used to stitch them for us before darshan. And on the eve of the darshan, mother used to give it to us. When she used to give to the ladies the saris, we used to get our frocks and skirts and blouses.
You said that when you used to have meditation in the ashram,
Yeah.
that time mother used to come down.
I think she used to come to the meditation hall. And they used to spread mats all over the courtyard, because Haradhanda used to do that. It was his job to put the mats and things, as far as I remember.
What time it was held?
I don't remember
Do you-
very
Relative.
Do you
But mommy also worked for some time in the mother's kitchen. She used to help them, yeah. She worked also for some time in mother's kitchen. And one thing, in those days, Mridudi, you must have heard of Mridudi. That's the Prasad house, which is there, just opposite to the balcony. You know why it's called the Prasad house? Because that is where we got the Prasad, Sri Aurobindo's and mother's Prasad. I still remember in the evenings, the food used to go to Sri Aurobindo, and I don't remember how many days a week. So there was one day when they used to make khichdi, and then the khichdi used to come, And we did not have, in those days, we know ashram didn't have so much money, or we didn't have bowls or anything so much. So we kids used to go, and we all used to get a little prasad of which Sri Aurobindo and mother had touched on there. And then, so we all used to get a little bit of that every evening. Not every evening, I don't remember how many times, but that is why it is still called the Prasad House. The house
Yes.
which is just...
And when did Mother begin balcony darshan?
Balcony Darshan was started when I came, it was already there. So it was before I came.
And you could go to that.
Yeah, because I was staying there but I was lazy. There were days when I didn't come. I know Mother was there, but I used to sleep over. I mean, at that age, you know, you don't understand the value of.
Yes.
But later, yeah, of course. So there were days when which I tried to come every day, but there were days when I slept off also. It did happen.
You had told me that you were teaching. Are
Yeah.
you still teaching?
Yes, I'm still
What
teaching.
do you teach?
I teach French.
I see.
I teach French in the school, the last 2 years of school, before they go to college.
When did you begin teaching?
Well, I started teaching when I was a student still. Because Mother always thought that we learned better when we taught. So I think I must have started teaching when I was 17 or 18. So at that time, you know, we start with the children, and slowly, as we have grown, so we have gone up the ladder also. That's how it is.
I see. And did you teach any other subjects?
Yeah, for years I have been teaching physics, chemistry, and
I
biology.
see.
I just gave it up because I gave it up almost 10, 12 years back because it was too much. I mean, I just couldn't cope up so many things, because especially physics and chemistry, we had 2 hours at a stretch with the practicals and all that, and as I was not keeping very well in those days, so with all the fumes and all, it was a bit, so I gave it up. It's almost 10 to 15 years back. But I've been teaching that for the last 30 years. I've been teaching physics, chemistry, and French.
30 years you
Yeah,
taught.
I also taught some biology for some time, but that was just...
If you are teaching at very young age, that means you are very good at subjects.
I don't know. I don't know whether I was very good or no, but I think my students like me, and many ask me, how long are you going to teach? I said, as long as my health permits, and as long as I feel that I'm doing justice to my work,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
children are enjoying my classes, I will continue.
I always ask older ashramites to tell us something about their memories of Nolini, Pavitra, Amrita. Could you share some
Yeah.
remembrances of them?
Yes, Pavitrada, I remember very well. For us, he was the director of our school, and we were quite afraid of him when we were kids. So I remember he used to take tests, maths tests. That time the school was in the old building, you know, the present bodybuilding gymnasium. That is where the first school was. It was a rented place, and that is where. And all that I've written the whole history in that book. So, and I remember the tests, Pavitrada used to take the tests. And I know I was scared to death to stand in front of him. And he used to give us perhaps an addition or a subtraction or something like that. But just the fact that we had to stand beside him was quite... but he was such a darling of a man. I mean, later as I grew up, then we could speak to him, and he was such a simple man, such a simple man. I mean, he used to be with us we could really approach him for anything at any time. He was always there, ready to answer us and ready to. So that is his Pavitrada. Nolinida, Well, we have done sports together. I remember running with Nolinida in the sports ground, swim, athletics competition. And well, he was there. He's somebody very special. But I was not very much. I did not go to him very much. Pavitra, of course, we had because we had
School.
contact with school,
Yeah.
and Amrita was the manager. So that was also they were for the elders. We always thought, not for us. I mean, I did not have much contact with them in that way. Of course, they were there, but
With Dada, you had
I had a lot of contact with that, with Pranav, yeah. Because that is when it started. No, he made me a captain, and he really took interest. He taught me every little thing. I mean, he used to give me special classes. Even at that age, he used to teach me anatomy, physiology, so that I knew. And he used to tell me what to do in the group, what not to do. And I remember when I used to take my group, mother used to come back from tennis. Very often, mother used to stand there to see what I was doing, because I was the youngest captain. So mother used to stand there to see what I was doing with the kids. And I can tell you two incidents which are very interesting, which I have written in my interviews. The difference in age between my children, my group children and me wasn't so great. So sometimes they used to bully me also. They used to pull my hair, and if I told them something, they used to spit on me and all. So one day I told mother, look, this child does this, what do I do? So mother said, just let him sit in the corner. Don't allow him to play. So every day when I came, I called the line and I said, you go and sit in the corner. So you first of all, you make him sit for a week. Then start taking him one day in the group. So I started decreasing this way, and slowly, in no time, he was a changed person. Another incident which I remember very well was a child who used to bite, Anything he said, he used to bite. So when I told him, what do we do? So mother said, he needs a muzzle made. So Alberta stitched a mosquito net muzzle for him, And you will be surprised to know that he used to come to the group 4 o'clock, and he'll come to me very nice. Will you, Nomitadi, will you please tie this on my mouth? So I used to tie it. It was a cloth muzzle, so I used to tie it. And in those days, mother used to be in the playground till late, 10 o'clock. She used to have her interviews and different things. So she used to be there. He never opened it, never touched it. Before going home, he used to come back to me. Nomita Devi, will you take it out? So I used to take it out for him.
And he never bit after that.
No.
See that?
So these are, and then there's something very interesting which I have written there. So I don't want to repeat. These are
No,
all.
please, because this is going to the whole world.
You see,
And people don't only read books anymore. They look at the internet and they will see you and they will feel something.
So you see what was so interesting is, as I told you, when I was a kid, I had a friend, there was a French lady, Madame Kaspari, who used to make us sing and dance and all that. And then she went away. Years later, it was sometime in the 1956 or something, Olga came, Olga Ellen.
Oh, yes.
And there was a notice in the ashram, in the school. All the children and I remember as a kid, I was fascinated by this instrument. When she used to play it, I just used to go and touch them and, do things like that. So when Olga came, when the notice came up in the school, all the children who want to learn piano, please give your names. So I think I was one of the first to go and give my name. And then it so happened that we were so many, and there was only one piano. So we had our theory classes in school, and practically I think we got half an hour a week to play on the piano. And of course, after a year, it was too much. So Olga said, no, I cannot, with half an hour of practice and so many students, we can't do anything much. So all the names were taken up, except the few who had a piano or who could afford a piano, their names were kept. So my name wasn't there. I was extremely sad because I couldn't afford a piano then, and I didn't have a piano, and I was extremely sad. So, and I was already a captain in 56. So I told Pranabda that why don't we get a piano in the playground? Then I can play the piano and the children can dance and do movements. It would be wonderful. So he said, let's see, I'll ask mother. So he told mother, well, we got in the piano in the playground. And then Olga started giving me lessons in the playground. And the day the piano came, I still remember, it's a wonderful story. The day the piano came, mother came back from her tennis and I was taking the group. So she waited, and when I finished at 5:30, she said, come, let's go and see the piano. It was a second-hand piano. So we went there, and in those days, wherever mother went, everybody used to follow her. So there was a whole group of people following her. So we went, and it was kept, at that time playground was different. It was placed somewhere, the whole structure was different. So then mother asked me, now play something. I said, I can't play. She said, no, play something. You have learned for some time. I said, mother, I learned for 1 year, half an hour a week. And then 1 whole year, I did not touch a piano. I forgot it. And I still remember the eldest started, oh, mother is asking you to play, you can't play. I said, but I don't remember, I can't play anything. Then she said, do you remember your scales? I said, perhaps I could play the scales. Then she said, fine. You play here and I will play here.
Oh my.
So the two of us, we played together. We played the piano together for some time. And then I said, now you play. Then she played for some time. And then very often I used to practice the piano after group. So mother sometimes when she used to walk up and down in the playground, so she used to stop there at the window to see that I was practicing. And then Olga started giving me lessons. So for a few years I played for the children, but then I found it was difficult for me because the children, at that time we did not have the rhythmic hall and all that. So the children were out in the playground in the sun and I was inside the room with a little window through which I had to. So it was very difficult to play and to teach. So then I called Olga, I said, Olga, why don't you come and play? And it is since then Olga started playing for the groups.
I see.
Olga started playing for the groups and I started. Now that she's no more there, it's, I'm forced to play again.
Did you get very good at it?
I have done it intermittently, not regular, on and off. But I was always very much interested in it. Well, by the way, I have my own piano now at home. It's an electronic piano. So
You still play and
I
practice.
play, but I play for myself.
Yes.
I play for the joy of it, that's all.
Wonderful.
You've seen mother playing newer music. What?
No, that she used to do in her room, that I haven't seen. But there she played with me.
Yes.
That,
What a memory.
yeah, that she
Wonderful
played
It's a
with me.
rare thing.
Yeah. That piano is still there in the band quarters in the sports ground, but it's in a very bad state. It's absolutely it's rotting, I think.
In playground, very close position.
You see, you remember the old captain's room?
Yeah.
You remember? Huh? It was in the old captain's room. They cut a window specially for the piano, and the piano was placed on a platform inside there. So we used to play there. We used to look out. The children were out in the sun, and so it was really not practical. So that is how it started.
No, Meeta, we usually keep our interviews to 45
Yeah,
minutes,
I think.
and we've run a good 45 minutes
Yeah.
today. Will you come back and share some more experiences with us? You could write down some keynotes and
No, I've been doing too much of writing.
much writing.
You asked
Then
me,
I'll do it.
You
Okay.
asked me, and I prefer to do it extempo like that,
wonderful.
because
Yes.
yeah, I could share some very nice experiences. The first time I went out of Pondicherry, that was wonderful when I came back.
I see.
That was in 1971, 72 beginning, and I had a full 45 minutes with mother. That's something. That was something wonderful.
Then shall we, what would be a good
But
day?
for me,
Ma-
can't you do it earlier? Because as I said,
We'll try. What
You know
what
what
is a
happens?
good time for
for
you?
me, it's very difficult for me to drive at night.
Yes, yes, okay.
I find it very difficult.
Yeah.
And
Yes, I'd love to look through it, and I'll bring it on Wednesday.
Yeah, A Captain's Journey.
Oh,
They have named it. And this was an interview which was first published in the Sports Spirit. Here you'll see that I'm a child of 4 here, with my mother and my aunt
oh.
when I first came here.
Just show the picture. Turn this.
It's very small, but
Yeah.
I'll hold it close.
This is when I came. So first they had interviewed me for this, and then the Golden Chain people liked it. So they have taken a portion of this, and then they gave me a few more questions.
Wonderful.